So we're going to bring up our next presenter right now and keep the show going. She says that she is a designer, a rock climber, a tango dancer, a business owner, and maybe because she lives on a prairie, she feels a constant need to gravitate toward the mountains. Ladies and gentlemen, Gretchen Wieshuber.
I love typography. I appreciate its history, its traditions, and the way it helps us communicate. But more than anything, it can be so beautiful. We all have unprecedented typographic power under our fingertips, but we don't all understand how we got it or what to do with it, and I want to help. Human beings have been communicating and writing for at least 40,000 years. We have the urge to tell each other stories, to share information. Cave paintings became pictographs and then ideograms, and eventually characters associated with sounds that are the basis for our alphabet today. Whether engraved into stone or inked on paper, writing was done by hand for thousands of years. The elegance and craftsmanship that went into hand lettering still influences type design today. This inscription on Trajan's column inspired a typeface named Trajan. In fact, Gutenberg's original movable type mimicked the handwriting of scribes. Typography was born from the desire to speed up the writing process so that more people could own and read Bibles and other books, to spread knowledge, which led to the Reformation and the Enlightenment. The linotype further sped up the process. It was a true steampunk machine. It was complicated and dangerous. It turned hot molten lead into perfect slugs of type. A linotype operator spent years mastering his craft. In the 1960s, tons of linotypes became scrap metal because phototypesetting was introduced. Phototype opened up a new frontier of creative typographic expression. Without the restriction of metal, characters could be set close together. They could even intrude in each other's space. Also, phototype allowed for unlimited type size. And now, since the 80s, digital type has ruled. Because Steve Jobs took a calligraphy class in college, he understood what makes type beautiful, and he built that into his computers. We now all have access to professionally designed typefaces. And I'm going to give you 3 tips that you can start using immediately to make your typesetting better looking. Regardless of what you were taught, you only need 1 space after a period. Every time you put 2 spaces in your document, you create a hole. And when the holes line up, you get a river. And this is disruptive to your reader. Secondly, use curly quotes instead of hash marks. A lot of software will make this conversion for you, but if you see it's not happening, learn the keystrokes to access true typographer's quotes and apostrophes. They look a lot better. And third, learn the keystrokes to access N dashes and M dashes and know when to use them. There's a reason all these characters exist, and it's to communicate clearly without misunderstanding. Beautiful typography is a pleasure to read, not a chore. It doesn't become an obstacle. If you have some time to waste next week, Google the Kerning game and play it. If you have fun, you just might be a type nerd. But even if you're not a type nerd, we'll get some terminology straight. A typeface is a design for letters. A typeface might consist of 1 font or a whole family of fonts. In the circle is what a digital font looks like. It contains the instructions for drawing every character of one typeface, weight, and style. A digital font has no size and no color. It's just the outlines. And now I'm going to share the work of some designers that have inspired me. Herbert Bayer studied at the Bauhaus, and his work reflects the Bauhaus aesthetic: simple shapes, primary colors, and geometric typefaces such as Futura. If you see the O's in the bottom row, they're perfect circles. Massimo Vignelli was a modernist and a minimalist. He focuses on simplicity. His map for the New York City subway presents the essential information in the most direct way possible. Helvetica is part of this aesthetic. It's pure function. Herb Lubalin did more than anyone else to push the creative boundaries that photo typesetting opened up in the 60s and 70s. This is just one example of his work. He was the art director for Upper and Lowercase magazine, which was a showcase for his type experiments, and he also designed numerous typefaces. Saul Bass designed posters for the movie industry, including Hitchcock. His clients loved his kinetic hand lettering so much that they asked him to design some movie credit sequences, and instead of a boring list of names, what they got was a mini movie with sound and motion, and it changed Hollywood. Paula Scher can make type dance. As a student, she was unable to rub down her press type in neat lines like the other kids, so her professor said, "You're not good at this, try something else, illustrate with type." And that is the genesis of her personal style. Stefan Sagmeister makes letters out of unusual things like bananas, everyday objects, nature. In this poster, he famously carved lettering into his own body. Sagmeister takes a one-year sabbatical out of every 7 years to keep his ideas fresh. Seems to work. David Carson broke all of the rules. In Raygun magazine, a lot of his layouts were barely legible. He once set an article entirely in dingbats. But his style caught on, and it came to define the 90s, and they called it grunge typography. So these are examples from the masters, but beautiful typography is everywhere. I see it every day. I have discovered that the more people learn about type, the more likely they are to become passionate about it, or at least appreciate it, and to want to make their own type more beautiful. Thank you.